What's up, everybody? Welcome to this week's Real Estate Weekly Lesson. I'm your host, Greg Helbeck, and today I'm going to talk about the number one rule in business and the number one rule in real estate. And by the way, if you're not familiar with me, I have been a full-time real estate entrepreneur now for over 10 years. I've done well over 400 properties. I've wholesaled a ton. I've flipped a ton. I own a bunch of rentals. I've done creative financing. So everything you're going to learn from me is real world practical information. This is not regurgitated theory out of a book. So if you get value from this, do me a favor. If you're watching, like the video, subscribe to my channel. If you're listening, if you can share the show with somebody who you think would benefit from it, that would be great. Let's get into the number one rule in business, in real estate. If you follow this rule, I'm telling you right now, it's going to be one of the best things you will ever do. And drum roll, please. The rule is keeping your word. You got to do what you say and say what you do. If you keep your word, especially in the real estate investing business in this industry, you will go farther than most people will ever imagine. Because the truth is, and I hate to say it, but it is reality, unfortunately, most people don't keep their word. They say all these things and they don't follow through on what they say. They make all these promises and they can't deliver. So it's pretty obvious. Like, I'm sure you're probably thinking, like, Greg, this is common sense. But if you get into the habit of being a business person, especially a real estate investor who keeps your word, you are going to have trust, respect, more business, more opportunities, more referrals, and it's ultimately going to get you into the stratosphere of success. And if you build a reputation up on somebody who keeps your word, you are going to go so far in this business. Because I think there's this saying, it takes 10 years to build your reputation and 10 seconds to ruin it. And that usually is when you don't keep your word and you don't fulfill your promises to people and you don't do what you say you're going to do. So how does this actually look in reality? Obviously, I just gave you very broad advice that is very valuable, by the way. So pretend like you paid a lot of money to listen to this, even though it was free. How does this work? I'm going to give you examples with sellers, with buyers, with tenants, and with vendors and lenders, all right? And that didn't mean to rhyme on purpose. So with sellers, okay, actually buy their house. Isn't that a wild concept? Like, say you're going to buy their house and then buy their house. And if you need an inspection period and you say you might cancel because of the inspection period, well, only cancel during that inspection period, right? If you say you're going to close in 3 weeks, close in 3 weeks. Like, whatever you say to a seller, you ultimately do. And you can keep your word and still not have to close. You can tell a seller, hey, I might need to cancel this contract after the inspection period is up because I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to either buy it after we get an estimate or maybe wholesale it to somebody else. But you have my word that during this inspection period, if there's any issues that come awry, I will let you know and we will cancel then and I won't drag you out. You can do that. Or you could just say, if it's a smoking deal, you don't need an inspection period, say, hey, I'm good to go. I'm good to pay you 500 grand for this house. You have nothing to worry about. I'm going to close on time, I promise, assuming there's no title issues. That's as simple as that. What about with buyers? Buyers is very simple. Hey, I'm going to sell you this house. I'm going to actually do this because I have multiple offers and you seem like the buyer who's the most serious, who's willing to pay the most amount of money, and you don't have to worry about me selling this to another buyer. However, because I'm selling it to you and now it's going, quote unquote, off the market, I expect you to close on time and not screw me over because I'm going to give you my word and I want you to give me your word. And that's a big nugget I wanted to weave into this video and this podcast is that when you keep your word to others, you have the right and you're entitled to have them reciprocate, right? So if you tell a buyer, I'm going to sell you this house at this price, I now expect you to reciprocate by actually performing and doing what you say you're going to do because I'm doing what I say you're going to do. And if you catch them at alignment, you can call them out, right? You never want to sink down to somebody else's level. And that's something that I felt guilty of in the past. I try to get better at this every day is you never want to sink down to a lower level of human in terms of how someone may not keep their integrity. So if you see a lot of other investors screwing people over, that does not mean that it's the normal. That just means that they're shady and you shouldn't do it. So you never want to sink down to someone's level just because they're not operating how you know you want to operate to be a good person and a good business person. So that's sellers, buyers. Let's do tenants. This is pretty obvious. Hey, tenant, if there's any reasonable maintenance requests you need that come up once we sign this lease, I promise you within about 5 to 7 business days, assuming it's not urgent, it will be fixed, right? It will be fixed. We will be on top of it. If you submit a work request, we are going to make sure it gets done. However, we expect you to pay your rent on time. And if there's any issues, you let us know and we communicate about it and we go ahead and we're on the same page about it. So when you tell a tenant you're going to do your end of the bargain, you expect them to do their end of the bargain. And when they fall out of line with that, you have the right to remove them from your property if they don't pay the rent, if they screw around, if they damage your property, etc. When you have a high standard, you can hold others to a high standard. And that's the big thing about keeping your word. Not only is it good for you as a person, but then you can hold other people to your same standard when you hold yourself to that standard first, right? And that goes with buyers, sellers, tenants. And let's go with lenders and vendors. Hey, lender, I am going to pay you the interest. I'm going to pay you the monthly payments, or I'm going to pay you on the back end. I'm going to, whatever arrangement you have with your lender. Hey, I promised you, lender, I'm going to pay you 12% annual interest with a 4-month minimum. Maybe you sell that property in 1 month. Instead of going back and saying, can we maybe do 2 months? And you think you look at the dollars, not the relationship. You say, hey, lender, I had a great deal here. I ended up selling the property after a month. Congratulations, we're going to be paying you off when we close the property, and you're going to get 4 months worth of interest, even though I only had the money for a month, because that's exactly what we said we were going to do. And when you do that to a lender, they're going to be fired up, and they're going to want to give you more money. They're going to say, Greg, when's the next one? When can I get the next one going? Because they had such a good experience with you, right? Huge, huge, huge doing that. And then let's lastly, but not least, vendors, contractors, service companies, software companies, whatever the case might be. Let's just use a contractor as an example. Hey, contractor, when we go over a scope of work and we actually put together a project, I am going to pay you on time when the work is done. So if we have a 4-payment system where I pay you over, 4 different periods based upon milestones, for sure when the work that we agreed with is completed and inspected, you are going to get a wire or a check immediately. No questions asked. To blend this all together, I know this is like common sense. If you can build up the habit in the real estate investing business of actually keeping your word with people and building that up over the long run, you're going to have more success, aka financial success, money. You're going to have more deal flow. You're going to have more relationships, and you're just going to overall have a better time, and you're going to feel better as a person because you do what you say you're going to do. So hopefully you got value from this. If you've worked with me in the past, you know that I do what I say I'm going to do. If we're going to do a deal together, we're going to do a deal together. We're going to find a way to make it work. And I'm going to expect you to do the same thing, right? That's the way it is. That's the way the world works if you live in reality and you live with integrity. So if you have a deal and you're in the Hudson Valley to Seattle area or Delaware and you want to wholesale it to me, send me an email, greg@velocityhousebuyers.com, or you can drop me an Instagram DM at grego_37, and I will see you on the next REI Weekly Lesson. Take care.